Hello, and welcome to Season 3 of Beyond Teaching, a series featured on the Psych Sessions Network. This series is hosted by Susan Nolan from Seton Hall University, Adiyinka Akinseler-Smith from City College of New York, City University of New York, Asani Sewell from Pacific University, and yours truly, Eric Landrum from Boise State University. To be a successful psychology academic or professional, it takes more than teaching research or clinical skills. That is, today's professionals were probably not taught everything they need to know in graduate school. The Psych Sessions podcast, Beyond Teaching, strives to fill that gap. We chat about the topics we need to know about to be successful in our careers, but we didn't know to ask about in graduate school. When we don't have the expertise among us, we go out and find someone, and this is particularly relevant in Season 3. These 10 episodes were recorded from June 7th through November 2nd, 2021, and they are being released starting December 29th, 2021, and Season 3 will finish on March 30th, 2022. What are you in for? Oh, the places we'll go. We'll chat about leveraging social media, publications, and playing that classic academic game, how to make decisions about co-authoring, dealing with student requests for accommodations and exceptions, which seems especially relevant in this era, and maximizing student office hours, or what are called student hours these days. Also in Season 3, we invited a number of guests to come on the podcast and share their expertise with us. This included Sunyoung Lee and Psychi's Faculty Support Advisory Committee and what Psychi can do for faculty, Loretta McGregor and the difference between mentoring and advising, with extra information about imposter phenomenon tossed in for good measure. Sandy Jenkins and James Lane share their experience from 2 accumulated careers about clinical supervision, and Beatrice Krause shares her delightful adventures in retirement, which depart greatly from our retirement stereotypes or typical tropes. We truly hope that you'll enjoy Season 3 of Beyond Teaching. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Beyond Teaching. Oh, I think we have a good one today. And I am Eric Landrum from Boise State University, and here are my friends and my colleagues.
I'm Yinka Akinseler-Smith from the City College of New York.
Asani Sewell, Pacific University.
And Susan Nolan, Seton Hall University.
So I don't know how we want to do this. I could say I've got this student and we can make up fake students. But we started talking before we hit record about how do we deal with student requests for accommodations, student requests for, and I guess I don't mean a formal accommodations, but I just mean like extra time on an assignment or an extra day to turn something in or something like that. How do you deal with those? How do you figure out
I would call them
exceptions, not break?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I would call them exceptions as opposed to accommodations.
Perfect.
Yeah. We all have different types of students. We've got undergrads and grads represented among us. So I'm sure there are some differences there. I try to build flexibility into all of my classes. I know there's research on certain groups, women, BIPOC people, first gen students who are less likely to ask for exceptions than other people. And I don't want a situation where the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak. So I try to build in flexibility into all my classes. Just as an example, in my abnormal psych class currently, students can skip 3 homework assignments, which occur about weekly, 3 quizzes, which occur about weekly, and 1 of the 4 exams. And I don't give exceptions beyond that because I tell them that's for everything. Those are, you can use them for anything. You don't even have to tell me. And it allows everyone to have the same access. And it also, in a class with anywhere from 80 to 120 students, it means I don't have to, there's nothing worse than having a student say, someone in my family died. And I couldn't bring myself to ask for evidence. That would be just awful. And this way you don't even have to worry about who's telling you the truth, which probably is most of them, and who's lying. But then you sometimes do get a student who wants exceptions beyond the exceptions. And just one more example, in a class this semester, a different class, not my abnormal psych class, I had a deadline of Friday at midnight for a certain assignment. And it wasn't a huge assignment. It was an op-ed / letter to the editor assignment where they had to base it in research. And I had a student who had some really serious things going on. It's the pandemic after all. And she asked, could I just have till Sunday? And so this was, I think, I want to say Thursday. So a day before, I just told the whole class, everyone can have till Sunday. And that way, if someone wasn't comfortable asking, but you can't always do that with an exam. You can't say, you know what, everybody will move the exam to a different day. So how do you deal with that situation when there is the squeaky wheel who wants the exception beyond the exceptions, beyond the flexibility? I don't have an answer.
Well, Susan, as a starting point, it sounds like you've got the really great strategy, and one that I use too, which is to let the syllabus be a kind of a guide, right? The things that you're talking about, that the exceptions that you allow for in your classes are written about in the syllabus so students sort of know about them ahead of time. And I would imagine too, like in my syllabi, you also have all the deadlines and things that are provided to the students at the beginning of the semester with
Mhm.
reminders that happen throughout the course and things like that. So I think that I can maybe tend towards being a little bit of a pushover and a kind of an icy. And so I learned a long time ago when I first started teaching that allowing it to be in the syllabus was really kind of my way of ensuring that I wasn't getting pushed around too much. So I start that as a point. But your question is an excellent one, and I'm sure we'll kind of mull it over all together. But I think as a beginning for folks who are listening, when you're thinking about your exceptions, your leniencies, or your nots, then putting in your syllabus, I think, is a good way to sort of begin that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's in the syllabus that I don't give. But I will say at the same time, when I'm in the classroom, I will say to students that just talk to me. Let's keep communication going. So if there is something that comes up, let's talk.
Mhm.
But, I'm not saying, yes, come running to me and expect da da da. Da. But if there are circumstances, like I try to keep reminding them, that's why I have student hours. Come in. Let's keep the communication flowing so that, and I also talk about my role being not to, I don't know, hold them back. But, I want them to do well. I want to help them. But, there is a respectful thing that I also have deadlines just as they have. So I try to keep that conversation in the mix.
It's so interesting to hear the three of you talk about this. It's so nuanced on so many levels. Sonny, you talk about how you don't want to be a pushover. And I think a lot of faculty really worry about that. You really worry about, am I going to be taken advantage of? And is the student going to lie to me? Is the student going to get away with something? And I think for me, that kind of changed over the course of my career because I think I had that exact same concern. I had that exact same concern. Like, um, I need evidence. I need a doctor's note. I need proof that you couldn't do this or do that. And maybe as I've gotten older, or maybe it's just lazier. I don't know what it is. I don't ask for those things as much. I think our dean of students does some of that now more than I would do. And I've also just kind of started thinking about what if they do get one over on me? What if student did lie to me about a grandfather's death and I didn't ask for the funeral home certificate or the funeral home, the service, a flyer, that thing that they put out. They got one over on me and they got extra time to work on a paper. Maybe that's what they needed. And if my colleagues think I'm lesser for not being a hard ass, then I guess they get to think that. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with your perception or your concern. I understand where people come from. And I also agree with it's hard to because I also want to be really open. I want students to come to me, but I also like Susan's approach is making it available to everybody because I don't know if my BIPOC students are going to come openly to me and feel a rapport that I want. Just because I think I'm open and approachable doesn't mean that I am. So I have to think about it from their perspective too.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I don't want to ask for the documentation. And also, I even tell them in the beginning of the semester, I don't I don't say it like I don't even care. I don't care what your reason is. You can pick what your reason is. And I even joke with them. I'm like, it might be something really serious, fill in the blank, but it could be that you're hungover because you went out too late with your friends. Or it could be that you're just exhausted because you're exhausted. Like I want it to be your choice in how you use these skips. And I think for me, the driving force and not wanting to make exceptions beyond that is thinking about the student who's probably never going to ask me, the quiet student sitting in the back who, for whatever reason, maybe because they're first generation, maybe they're just an introvert. And if suddenly the students who are showing up asking for exception after exception, and I start giving them, I just don't think that's fair. By the same token, I really do think that there need to be exceptions, which is why I try to fill them in. For example, I tell my students, they say, can I have extra credit for X, Y, or Z? I'll say, I'm very open to extra credit if it's something that fits with our learning outcomes, but it has to be something that's available to everybody. So if you say, hey, I've got an opportunity through my job, can I do that for extra credit? I'm going to say no, but look for a speaker on campus that's relevant to everybody. And if I can offer it to everybody, then I'm open to it. Am I being rigid in my attempt to make sure that students don't get lost because they don't ask for these things?
No, I don't think you're being rigid, but I think you're opening up a can of worms because someone's going to say, well, you said the speaker on campus, but I worked that night. Now I can't go.
Oh, I've got the answer to that. So if I'm going to offer a speaker, I offer multiples at different times and you're only allowed to go to one. Yeah. I make sure I have one on the weekend. With my international psych class, they can go to one United Nations event, and I tell them I am bribing you with lots of extra credit because I want them to go to something and hear about this stuff in the real world. And I offer about 10 opportunities across the whole semester. Some are during the weekday, some are on weekends, some are in the evenings. And I tell them, if you see anything, even if it's not UN, if you see an international event, let me know and I'll add it to the list. And to get full credit, you have to do 2 hours worth. And yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with that. But it still has to be available to everybody. If it's going to go on that list, it has to be something that I can offer to everybody because everybody has to have all. Yeah. Again, I wonder sometimes, should I be giving more exceptions than I'm giving?
But I think even the conversation about giving exceptions, whether one does that or not, also may have something to do with one's own, as an instructor, as a teacher, as a professor, our own developmental growth. Because I think back to when I started, how rigid I was about things. And then going to Eric's point, it's just like, yeah, okay.
That's why I started adding this flexibility, Yenka. Same thing you're saying.
Because it was just like, there's so many things when I look back when I started teaching, how rigid I was about certain things. And now how, it's like, well, you take into consideration racial cultural factors, you take into consideration learning styles, all these things. Okay, just here's an exam, just do it and give it to me. Well, not all these things, just when I look back on myself, it's just like, oh, those poor students who had me earlier on, just want to bring them back and just hug them all and say, I'm sorry.
So while they're there,
you had to cover the whole book.
yeah. So while we're there, I remember teaching in graduate school and coming home and thinking, oh my God, I wish I could refund their tuition that day. I remember thinking it was so bad. They knew I was trying, but I wish I could refund their tuition.
Yeah. Got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Well, you learn at the expense of those early students.
I feel like I got the message early on when I started teaching because I was teaching a lot of the diversity courses for a department and have continued to do so, that being kind of a hard ass was a way to protect yourself as a faculty member of color teaching predominantly white students who don't see the diversity courses as being really relevant or important and who's going to blow it off if you don't stick the line. And I think I've kind of followed that forward a little bit in ways that haven't always served me or my students. Then COVID happened. And then it was just, I don't know, just humanity of everyone, including myself, became really apparent. Everyone gets an exception, including me. And I think that has caused me to sort of rethink or reframe what I was sort of mentored on early on about the importance of like taking this hard-nosed line on everything. I just think, who does that serve really?
Well, I think there is a fundamental strategy in there that even to this day, I still kind of follow per class or per semester, which is I start off the semester somewhat rigid, meaning here's the syllabus, here are the rules, It's a 10,000 point course, 9,000 points is an A, 8,999 points is a B. You start rigid. And then as the semester goes, you can lighten up on the accelerator. If I start loosey-goosey, I have a hard time putting on the brakes and getting
So true, Eric.
get right in. But if I start hard ass, which for me you can imagine it really isn't, but okay, whatever. But if I start, okay, this is it, this is how it's going to be, and I lighten up, I'm like, oh my God, he's so cool. Look at this. He's supporting our learning. Where I was going to do that all along. I just needed to start a little bit sounding rigid when I knew where we were going to end up all along. Yeah, I don't want to get taken advantage of at the beginning of the semester.
No.
Students will push as hard as they can for as much as they can, just like little children.
Also, course management in a large class. If you got 100 students and you start making exceptions and word gets around, suddenly you're writing multiple exams. And that's why in a large class, it's a lot harder to do. And again, I keep thinking of that student who I know is out there who's never going to ask. And I just want to protect that student. And so I would rather I used to just give 1 skip on the homeworks and quizzes. And then I was like, oh, 2. Now I'm up to 3, which is 3 out of 11. And that's more than most professors I know at Seton Hall give. And so I feel like then I can hold the line, like you get 3 skips. But I don't know. I'm simultaneously questioning myself today and feeling defensive about the built-in flexibility I already have that I know is not the case with many of our students. And it often gets mentioned. My flexibility often gets mentioned positively on evaluations. But then you've got the student who occasionally is really mad because their reason is, I don't know.
Well,
thinking out loud.
Yeah, well, we're never going to please every student. And some people think of students as customers, and part of that model applies, but it's not a perfect analogy. We are not like the old Sears Roebuck. We are not satisfaction guaranteed or your money back. It's not quite that relationship with students. So we don't guarantee an outcome. So, Susan, I think the push-pull that you're really generously sharing with us means that you're a caring, dedicated teacher, because we all struggle with this from time to time. Today just happens to be your day.
Yeah. And I agree. And I also, I guess one thing that is disproportionately available to people who ask is student hours. I love when students come to student hours. I encourage it all the time. And there are students who come a lot. So that there is one thing that's inequitably available because it's available to the students who ask for it and who come. So it's not like I'm going to say, well, we're not going to have, no, I would be fired. And I love student hours. That's actually really fun when they come, like talking to them one-on-one, especially the ones in the big class. But that's always going to be inequitable because there will be students who, as much as I try to explain what it means now that I call them student hours as opposed to office hours, and there'll be students who just don't understand what they can get out of it or just are not extroverted enough to come.
I told you I changed that in my syllabus because of you, right?
Yay!
And I talk about it with my students, like it's your time. Come, it's your time.
Yeah, I do it differently. I don't do office hours / student hours anymore. I do, you can book me.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can see half-hour slots on my calendar. They could pick either Zoom or face-to-face, and they can pick.
That's great.
So
That's
I have
great.
4 of those
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah, when we go back next semester, actually, I do miss those hours where the students actually come in and you
Yeah.
get to meet them and
Awesome.
talk to the face-to-face. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping that they will take advantage of that once we come back in person.
I had the opposite. My in-person smaller class, we had group meetings last week for their group projects. And we talked about it. We decided we'd do them virtually. It just seemed to make more sense. We'd be sharing screens and all of that. And I loved seeing their whole faces.
They turn on their cameras, right?
Right. Yeah. Without the masks on and all of that.
And they were small group meetings. There are 4 people in each group or 3 people in some groups. And so they were comfortable turning on. I asked them, I said, if you're comfortable, and they all did. And it was just so nice to see their smiles.
Makes a huge difference.
Some of them didn't look anything like I thought they would look. Do you ever have that? It's like the mask, you sort of imagine their face.
Yeah, it's like, that is not what I thought your nose and mouth looked like at all. And that chin, how about
Like
that?
fill in the blank.
And I'm not very good at learning names, and the masks have made it doubly difficult for me to learn names.
Yeah. Well, that's why Zoom is so helpful, because the name's just down there.
I was just going to say that exactly. Exactly.
You just move your cursor over the.
Yep.
That is an excellent point. Let me see. Asani.
Although I've been known to change mine in the middle of faculty meetings. Eric Curmudgeon, I've changed at least once.
I've been using for STP things I've done as president. I've been using the STP Zoom, which has Tom Pusateri, our executive director's name on it. And I can't tell you how many times I've joined a meeting and people are like, "You're Tom Pusateri." I have to change it.
Oh,
This was a really helpful conversation to people have other things they want to weigh in. I think there's no one answer, but I think having this conversation again and again is a really good thing to do.
Well, yeah. And it's also a reminder that there are many ways we can do this. You think about the course that you're teaching and the particular students you have, and, set up your syllabus and your how you follow up with them accordingly.
I'll give you one sticky one.
Okay.
You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. And this has actually come in as a request for an exception, and it's come in as an official accommodation request at my university. In a face-to-face class, relatively large, 50 to 80, a student, for differing reasons and a couple different occasions, has requested, mid-semester, something's happened. I now need this class to be offered to me over Zoom.
Seton Hall does not let us do that.
Singularly.
Yeah. Seton Hall.
Yeah.
Students attend only remotely. They don't let us do that.
Yeah, but what if you're teaching? But I'm saying, I've got 80 students face to face, and something happens to a student in their life, and they go to the university and tell the university about that. And the university then comes to the faculty member and says, there is now a request for you to offer, instead of 80 students face to face, 79 students face to face, and 1 student via Zoom, remote or asynchronous. What do you do?
I'll tell. So we're not allowed, but I have had students in that circumstance. So what I have done is all of my homeworks and quizzes can be done online. I moved my tests. And this is one issue, is because my syllabus said that tests would be in person. But when this started happening, I moved all my tests remote so that you can do all of the things that get you credit remotely. And then I supply everyone with all my PowerPoints and notes and all the videos we're seeing, all of that. And then I tell them to get notes from a classmate and then come see me in student hours as often as they want. But I am not creating videos because in class I'm running around. It's a giant auditorium in my big class. I'm not going to create some videos.
Yeah, that's really hard.
And that is exactly, Eric, why I moved all of my assessments online so that it's a pandemic. I got it. If something happens and you can't come, you're going to miss the lecture part, but you're going to get everything else.
See, it also, I think, depends on the course that you're teaching as well.
Right. I'm talking about the big one.
Yeah, no, because I'm thinking of, I teach a course on trauma and resilience, and what inevitably has been happening, I've found, is that students winds up tapping into various students' own histories and experiences, and so they tend to get really personal. So we don't even record the class just because, I don't want the information going out into God knows where. So yeah, it can get tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're pushing back on it really because of faculty workload. Faculty start their semester preparing for.
There you go. There's all that.
And especially for an adjunct faculty to try to now juggle in-class classroom management, Zoom. And Susan, you're a world-class teacher. Not everyone has everything. If you're giving a test on bubble sheets still or paper and pencil, to do that conversion, you're ahead of the game, but not everyone, my colleagues are. So, or some of them don't give tests at all, and they're doing other types of assessment or group work where it's in-class presentations, or they're giving time in class and now you got one person on Zoom. In fact, you can still have meetings with 5 in the room, but and 6 person off remote, but it's a really interesting challenge that we're seeing more. And there's this, of course, wanting to accommodate a student who's clearly having a significant crisis of some kind. We want to keep them engaged, keep them enrolled, retain them. But at the same time, what's the burden of workload to a faculty member who wasn't expecting dual modalities in week 10 of a 15-week semester?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep.
And
Great.
students think we can do it because we all did it March of 2020.
Right.
But that was the whole class.
Right.
The whole university.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we switched to remote for
Not
everyone.
one
It's
person
very different.
out of 80
Yeah.
switching.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe.
Well, thank you for indulging me in this conversation.
Thanks for
Calling
bringing
it
up
the
that.
topic.
Yeah. An important topic.
And I'm sorry if I talked, sorry to the audience, I talked more than normal.
I'm gonna take that part out when I
No, please leave it. I was ranting.
that apology is not necessary. It's superfluous.
Please keep it.
It's not needed either.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Do it.
Yeah. Bringing it up.